Hey friends, we are going live here. Hello, welcome. This is our third live stream this week, and I'm so excited to be bringing you the one and only Mike Heiser. What is up, buddy? Are we matching today?
Living my best life.
Where'd your glasses go? I
Yep,
didn't see
sorry,
it all of a
sorry.
sudden.
Yep, gotta have the blue light blockers.
Are we not internet marketers if we don't have those?
No, I don't think so. I
Yeah,
don't think so. But it's a
sorry.
rite of passage, really.
Totally. How are you doing?
So good. We've been growing things incredibly fast in Pampa. I think we spent like $1.8 million on ads last month. So
Love.
yeah, absolutely nuts.
Love.
But doing so well. What about you?
Well, I've been chatting about sphere of influence over here, taking people back to 2018. Can you believe it's been since 2018 that we've worked on this project? Yeah. And what's that?
I said we're both parents now too.
We're both parents now. And funny, my fiance is actually talking with somebody over at Pampa. So what a freaking small world we all live in. For anyone who's not familiar with Mike, Mike came on, maybe it was like May the last time. No, it was earlier than that. Maybe it was like February last year when he was spending $1 million a month. So he's almost doubled since then on Facebook ads. And so if you haven't caught that live stream, he goes into more of like the ad strategy side of the equation. Anytime I have to pick Mike's brain, like I will absolutely do it. But for anyone who's unfamiliar with you, can you give us like a quick overview of who the heck you are and what the heck you do?
Yeah, sure. I'm a performance marketing executive that have worked with countless really talented teams and people over the years. I've worked with Amy Porterfield, Todd Herman, Melanie Duncan, the guys over at Traffic and Funnels. Saw some incredible growth over there. A few other places that are noteworthy, but obviously we work together when we were launching the strategy system. But the biggest one is Pampa by far, just in terms of it's a little bit outside the digital marketing space, which I think is helpful. It's in the health space as opposed to that, like, I mean, you were at the Bro Marketing article.
You can say it. The marketers
we're pretty much aligned on
about marketing.
that like incestuous little circle jerk that is, digital marketing basically. And you get to see what works in other markets and what works well in other markets, and plus it's a blue ocean out there for all these other markets. So
totally,
it's so much easier to scale where you don't have to always have the unique mechanism. You don't have to always have, this constantly evolving IP. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's funny. Somebody just this morning had asked on one of our previous videos, would this work for my industry? Would this work for somebody who's outside of internet marketing in terms of a multi-page pre-sale site? And I'm actually going to be starting work with a client that teaches English as a second language. And I'm pumped just because the demographic that I can put ads in front of is just so much more expansive than like a really tiny slice of the marketing pie. I teach people to do this in this like little tiny vertical. So I'm really excited about that. But what are your thoughts on pre-sale sites in general for like the B2C side of the equation?
It's so crazy. I'm so glad you asked that question, because a lot of people don't recognize this, and why like a lot of digital marketers focus on copywriting is because all of these strategies, regardless of what the vehicle is, whether it's a webinar, whether it's like product launch formula, whether it's the Andre Chaperone style, 5-page sequence, or just a straight up long form sales page, they all boil back down to the same strategy, which is it's a long form sales letter.
Yeah.
It's just the vehicle changes, and match the vehicle to your demographic and what they're most likely to consume. So if you have an older demographic, it's long form copy. They're much more likely to read than they are to view.
Totally.
If it's a slightly younger demographic, if it's younger of baby boomer generation, maybe not baby boomers, but whatever the generation is that comes
What's
after
that? What's in between millennial and Gen X? Yeah, Gen X. I always call my mom's Gen X, and I call her a boomer all the time because she has an Android and she doesn't know how to use it. So even though she's Gen X, I'm like, okay, boomer.
Yep. So that younger generation, they're much more likely to consume video, and then the youngest generation has the shortest attention span in the world. So they're all about that TikTok life and Instagram reels. So it's just either way, you still have to take them through the journey of that level of awareness, and the vehicle that you choose to do that with just needs to match however they consume content.
Yeah, totally. I have two questions. One about when you saw my original copy for the Bro Marketing pre-sale site.
I fucking loved it.
I'll loop back actually as you're talking. I
Yep.
might go find that top secret photo that you sent. But
Oh, it's
then
floating around back here somewhere.
do you think the Gen Z TikTok attention span, do you think that something like a multi-page pre-sale site could be adapted across a bunch of like little micro touch points? And I know like you're working with some big names in the TikTok space that have been working with some big celebrities. So I'm so curious, the micro, like how would you make those micro touch points with this?
It's so interesting because we don't create desire, we channel desire, right? So the best way to approach it is, if you don't have an offer yet and you're just starting out from scratch, figure out what the market responds to, because all of these algorithms are kind of geared towards content. So, the first step in the equation is, how do I get attention? And, we just, so the social media guy that we work with, I'm not going to name drop him, but he ran social media for like Drake and, what's that other guy's name?
Bieber, wasn't it?
Yeah, Justin Bieber. So he's not really the person that I listen to for music. Like, I know who he is,
Yeah.
but I remember the names.
But you can't deny like the impact of the social side
Right.
of it.
It's pretty huge.
Yeah.
And as much as we try to create content that resonates with our demographic based on what we think is going to work as marketers, what the market actually responds to is oftentimes totally different. So we just had this video that went viral, and it's the 3 ingredients in toothpaste that you should avoid. That's where the market's at. Like that's what they want to hear about. We had 4.7 million views on that video. We only have 200,000 followers. I say only, but
that's a lot.
Yeah, that's pretty good actually. But yeah, so
I mean, what is that? 5%
million.
of the total amount of people though that are seeing the video. So like 95% of the people aren't following you. Probably 97, maybe even 99, because it's probably only reaching a fraction of that audience.
Yeah, so just organically, we expanded our follower account. This is on Instagram, by the way. But we expanded our follower account by about 30,000 people from that one post. And how that all factors in is based on what Facebook wants to see in their algorithm. We build audiences based on people that engage with our pages.
Mm-hmm.
So that supports our ads in that way. It's kind of indirectly, but it's still very effective. And the point of me mentioning that is, figure out the content and the messaging that resonates with your market first, and organic is almost always the easiest way to do that.
Yeah, definitely. On what was it, Wednesday this week, we had Sarah Tempty come on and actually talk about her like writing process and the different prompts that she thinks through for her chain of beliefs. So if anyone's watching today and hasn't caught that one, I've received so many messages about just that moment. It's right about 2/3 through the actual broadcast, where she just drops a way to think about messaging and a way to think about chain of beliefs that I was fascinated by. I didn't even know that was the method that she went through when she was creating the bro marketing article. So definitely check that out. Going back to my other question, when you first saw the copy for what became this viral bro marketing article, this multi-page pre-sale site that ultimately sold my program, the strategy system, going back to talking about the method or like the modality of delivery, did you know that it had to be presented visually the way that it did at first? Like talk to me through what that part looked like for you.
Yeah. Do you mean like actually creating the sequence of pages?
Yeah. So actually, let me just give context to the audience. So if anyone wasn't on Tuesday's live stream where we described who did what, Mike, at that time, I had presented the copy to him in like a Google Drive format. I didn't even know we were going to work together, but he was like, Bond, let me do this. Let me make you a site for it. And all of a sudden, just he was in my WordPress. He was like making this the most beautiful thing that you've ever seen. A lot of the visualizations on the page that are describing some of the concepts in that visual way. Like, I mean, you've created them all. He created the site itself. So anything like words on the page, what the page and the design and the experience looks like, is all this man in front of you today. So I hope that didn't take us too down like a rabbit hole over here. Tell me about when you saw it. How did we go from seeing the words to like knowing what that finished product would look like?
Oh man, years of experience. I don't really know. Which is probably the like cop out answer, but I just fell in love with the copy and gained so much respect for you and Sarah when I was reading that copy, because at the time, like, bro marketing was really going kind of nuts in the space, and even I was a little burnt out on the bro marketing crap. And having the opportunity to work on this together was just like, man, there's so much that we can do here in such a creative way. And there's certain things that I've picked up over the years that they're really, really important, but they're very nuanced.
Mm,
So, like the fact that people typically read a web page in an F format, for example. So,
okay.
your headlines are more important than your bodies.
Ooh.
Breaking up the text into like 1 or 2 sentences, bullet points, lists, visually, that's all going to increase the consumption of the text. If you just have a
Yeah.
big block of text, people don't read it. People skip over
No.
it. 'Cause
No.
most people are lazy. And ultimately, if we want to create an effective marketing piece, then the thing that's going to do that is consumption. So as we were creating it, it was just looking for those like powerful different points that we can make into headlines. And that may have already been formatted with the various headlines. I can't remember at this point, but looking for those things that we can highlight along the way, things that we can break down into different lists, things that we can make into like visual element, because
Yeah.
a picture speaks 1,000 words.
Those like click to tweets that I was adamant. I was like, we have to have click to tweet.
Like, let's do this.
Yeah, this was 2018. I don't know like how big click to tweets were, but I hounded Mike. I was like, these click to tweets need to happen.
And then certain other stuff too is just like I love there's a guy named Sean Vossler out there, and I love the stuff that Sean Vossler puts out there into the world. And at that time, he had done these like really cool like background video type
Oh,
images
yes.
that are just
Yeah,
like
yeah,
playing
yeah.
looping on repeat. I'm looking at your site over here and
Yeah.
remembering some of the stuff. And we just did some of that kind of stuff because I thought it was like a cool kind of new spin on things that would basically get people's attention. Like it was outside the norm.
Totally.
Like if you ever go look at like Agora landing pages, for example, they're ugly AF.
Yeah.
And they're super long form. There's so much they could do in terms of like UX to improve how those landing pages convert. But I guess for their business model, it's just not an overarching priority.
Yeah,
Not to
totally.
overwhelm.
It's funny that you say UX because I remember we had a feature, it was maybe on page 2 or 3, where there was 3 cards side by side, and you would click a card and the card would flip over. And essentially for the story to make sense at that part, you had to click each of the 3 cards and they had to like flip over one by one. And with heat maps, I believe it was, we realized not a single person was clicking any of those. Nobody. So they completely missed that part of the story, which was a great example of one of the ways that we tweaked it, because we did have Yas asked some questions before the live stream just about how did we iterate over the years? How did we optimize it? Really, it all happened within those first few weeks. Like, I don't really think other than a really small edit here and there over the years, just to keep it relevant and evergreen, really that's only the tweak that I remember.
Yeah, I mean, I would say we kind of knocked it out of the park from the get-go. Minus those, there's a few things that I think people think look cool and they don't work for shit. Sorry
Tell me more.
Like if you ever go to like WordPress templates, for example, and you see like different galleries, those don't work. If you ever see like slideshows, those don't work. Don't do a slideshow on your website.
Yeah.
Don't
we do have a slideshow, and I think it gets missed. I think there's like a spot where I'm talking about the way that I originally launched it to the warm audiences, and I don't think people slide through all of it to get the full details.
Oh, is that? I thought it was like I have the website pulled up and there's one that has like a bunch of like testimonials.
Yeah.
And
on mobile,
kind of
that's
stuff,
a slideshow.
Yeah. And for that kind of stuff, like that's fine. Because otherwise, yeah, especially on mobile these days, which is, back in the day when we were creating this, it was maybe 50 or 60% of traffic was mobile.
Yeah.
These days, it's like 90%. Like it's huge. My sister-in-law doesn't even own a laptop, which that's just nuts to me. Like people are on mobile, people purchase on mobile. So optimizing the whole experience for mobile specifically is really what you need to do. And people don't approach it that way, unfortunately. Like web designers don't approach it that way. And just having that information that you're creating the experience for a phone, not a desktop, is massive.
Yeah.
Because it's shifted from back in the day. It used to be people only bought stuff on desktop. That's not true anymore. People buy stuff on phones all the time.
Yeah, I don't even remember the last time I was on desktop and bought something.
Right? If we were going through this right now, we would absolutely change a bunch of stuff here just to make the experience for mobile that much better.
Yeah.
But at the time, again, this was several years ago. It wasn't as big of a deal. People were purchasing on desktop. So, keeping up with the times as important, I think.
It's funny, not too long after we released this, I think it must have been 2019. I was working with a client and they had a launch, which the year before they did a $700,000 day for the launch. This year's like that 2019 launch where mobile was really starting to get more popular in general. They could not figure out why that first day of the launch didn't come anywhere near what the previous one was. And I went to mobile in the middle of launch day. And on the bottom of the screen, there was like a pop-up that took up half the screen. There was the sticky header that just would not move. And then there was like another pop-up that filled it. So you could only read 2 sentences of a sales page on launch day at a time. And everything else, like the full screen, was just absolutely inaccessible. And I bet you they lost hundreds of thousands of dollars, like not thinking, how do we make this the most streamlined version for mobile, right? Like I think people look at the beautiful site that we did, and you're right, there are some things that look cool. I think even like if we were to do it again from scratch or tack on another multi-page pre-sale site in general, like I would streamline it even more. I would put even more white space, even like reduce some of the like interactive elements even more.
Yep. And that's because you know, I know for a fact a few of the rules that we followed on this page is like the rule of 1, for example. So, you know, when you're creating a website, even just your website, not a funnel, there should be one goal of your website, of your homepage. Is that to get them to read a blog? Is that to get them to register for your webinar? Like, what's that one goal? And that should be the focus of your entire website, is pushing everyone towards that one goal.
Yep.
And especially, this is especially true when you're creating like landing pages and funnels. And it's something that most ad networks don't actually like, is there's one goal.
Yeah.
So, you know, is that to get them to register for the webinar? Is that to get them to, you know, click to the next page, which is what it was in the bro marketing case.
Yeah.
And, you know, basically consume that content. Is that to get them to watch the next video? Is that to get them to register for, you know, the free lead magnet download? You know, it doesn't matter what that one goal is. But it's always just one purpose. And I think a lot of people kind of goof up on that because they want to link out to, you know, various different resources, and
totally.
You know, they need to know, like, they need to see the about me page. Should that be a link, or should that be embedded in the same page? And it should always be embedded in the same page, for the record.
Yeah.
But that's just the tendency of a lot of people. And the more you can simplify it, the more you can keep it in line with that one goal, the better it's going to convert.
Yeah. I mean, that answers, I can't remember who asked me this one beforehand, but they said, should we get rid of our traditional header that has like the about me and the podcast? That's the answer.
Yes.
Very, very, very succinctly put. Yes. The answer is get rid of anything that isn't the objective of that page.
Yep. One other thing that I see a ton of people do, and for the life of me, I don't understand why. Like well, sorry, let me back up. There is a place for this in B2B. And I do mean true B2B, not business to entrepreneur, where you're selling to, you know, other people that want, you know, help with like marketing, for example. Or certainly not direct to consumer. But a lot of people put their logo at the top of their landing page. No one cares about your brand at this point. No one knows you. No one cares about you. It doesn't matter how big you are. No one knows or cares. That is just wasted space on the most valuable part of the page. That first page fold is critical. So only include the information that's absolutely necessary to get that like micro commitment. They need to read the headline, or typically the way that we structure it these days is the pre-headline, which is kind of like an audience call out, the headline, which is the big bold claim, and then the subheadline, which is, you know, without things that suck. So, you know, attention digital marketers, if you want to, you know, achieve 20x ROAS in the next 17 days or less without lifting a finger or creating any new ad creative.
You just make that up on the spot?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, dang.
Like a lot of these over the years.
Yeah, I was like, I'm gonna copy, but like I can't come up with stuff like that on the spot. That was good. But right there, that was Mike's masterclass. Okay, the live stream's over today. We got Sarah's gem halfway through. We got Mike's like 6 seconds into it. We're fine.
that fun little headline formula. I use that. I still to this day use that everywhere. And I don't think anyone teaches that. So, you know, hopefully that's valuable to someone in your audience.
Right. It's funny that you say like the logo part. When the bro marketing first came out, or the bro marketing article first came out, my fiance, he went to work one day and the CEO was like, yo, you have to read this article. It's all about bro marketing and but he actually criticized it and said it's such bro marketing itself. Like, but he was loving the article and he was sharing this with Boris, and Boris was like, yeah, I know. My fiance wrote it. He's like, no, man, you don't understand. Like, this article, because all that it had on it was a little tiny byline that said by my name, right?
Yep.
Everything else was just, it's about the framework. It's about the methodology. It's about the unique way of looking at the world. It's about how you're helping people shift beliefs to position your product as the solution that they're looking for. And that doesn't mean you're going to attract everyone, right? Like, let's talk about the conversion of that first page of any multi-page pre-sale site. Like, how many people are supposed to jump off? I think it's like 50%. At least.
Yeah, it's a huge amount of people that drop off. And the way that we combat that is Perry Belcher says every innovation in marketing is just figuring out how to disguise the sales process. People go for the sale too quickly. Like, this is not intended to look like a sales page. This is intended to look like a blog post. And as I've continued to do this over the years, other companies, when they're running like native traffic and stuff like that, they'll basically run traffic to like listicles and different articles. And then they'll have like banner ads essentially on those pages that drive the conversion mechanism.
Their own banner ads.
Yep, exactly. Yep. So, but in terms of the page, it looks like an article on the internet. It doesn't look like a sales mechanism. So that was one of the critical things for this funnel. And I think it's pretty nuanced that, we didn't want this to look like a sales page. We wanted it to look like a blog post or an article or something like that people could read, because when something looks like a sales page, when something looks like marketing, people start to put their defenses up,
Totally.
And that's when they're like, no, don't care what it says. You can have the best information in the world, but people are just like, not interested. Right off the bat, not even reading that first headline.
Yeah.
So we have a TikTok rep, and I really like how TikTok says this, but whenever you're creating either organic content or ads, TikTok wants TikToks on their platform. And it's the same principle for Facebook. Facebook wants to see Facebook posts, things that look like they belong in the newsfeed. If they're pushing the Reels placement really hard these days, but they want to see, in terms of advertisements on Reels, they want to see advertisements that look like Reels.
Totally.
And there's this whole formula for all of these different ad networks, how they calculate your CPMs. You can try to buck this system, but your CPMs will just go through the roof.
Yeah.
Which means you have to pay more for that advertising spot than the person who makes it look more organic to the platform.
This is why automatic placements grinds my gears. I know we're going on a little ad tangent here, but automatic placements grind my gears, because one of my clients is really getting into Reels, and I'll just advertise the Reels placement for Facebook and Instagram. And I find, if I try to turn that into a feed post, the creative isn't designed for the feed. And I know Facebook's like, let me serve it up over there. And I'm like, no. I just want people to see this as a reel. I don't want them to see it even as a story. I'm designing things specific to each placement. And I was chatting with John Loomer yesterday, and he said the way to overcome that is to customize it at the ad level. And I'm like, I get what you're saying, but it's still just I don't know. Am I too old school, friends? Let me know in the comments if you're like, Bond, you're thinking 2016, you got to get in 2023, almost 2024 here.
Yep. I would say you're too old school, but you're also very with what you do. So it's hard to say that, with a high degree of confidence.
Right.
But, these are the problems that you start seeing when you're running at scale, which is, most people are not at that level. So
totally.
If you're looking for a placement, create ads for Reels and figure out how to get the click from Reels.
Yeah.
And run it just to Reels. You're fine.
Yeah. I mean, a majority of my audience is spending less than $1,000 a day. So that's definitely something that makes sense to around that ad spend. Yep.
Absolutely right.
So good.
We spend $70,000 a day,
right? That's a little bit different.
The equation changes at scale, and a lot of marketing kind of like shifts for you need to niche down, then you need to broaden it up and appeal to a wider audience. These are all problems that just seem to contradict themselves as you scale. but it's all part of the process, and it's in the right sequence that you need to do these things. So
yeah, it's funny that you bring that up, because yesterday I was yelling at one of my clients. She's a dear friend, but I was yelling at her, and she was like, "Well, how come I haven't figured out how to do X, Y, Z?" And I was like, "Because you just haven't put shit on the paper. Like you've taken all the time to strategize. Like, stop thinking about the thinking of it and put it on the paper. Like, ship something, anything that we can drive traffic towards, so that we can get the data, we can get the feedback loop and understand how it's working, so that we know if we need to tweak it or not." And I was joking with her. I was like, "You're Italian. You just need to be yelled at every once in a while." And she's like, "For sure. I do. Thanks, Bond. I do."
The truth. That's the truth. Talking
Right?
with their hands and everything. My wife's Italian, so I can say this.
Yeah. Okay. So you signed off on it. What were you gonna say?
No, that's such an important point, though, is people always get, especially people getting started, they always get stuck in analysis paralysis, right? And the reality is, like, just go post shit on organic, see how it performs. If you don't like it,
does.
pull it down. Who gives a shit? No one's paying that close of attention to you. And your brand, literally especially at that stage, your brand doesn't matter. No one knows who you are. And there's, that can sound really offensive to some people, but to other people, there's comfort in that. You can fuck up. Give yourself permission to fuck up. Just get it done.
Totally. Like this last night, actually, I post the concept. I post the backstory of, like, Andre Chaperone has left the building, right, with the modern marketing system, with Sphere of Influence. It's a product that Andre Chaperone created, and then Sean and him partnered together, and now Andre's on to his next project. So I was just like clarifying, hey, if you go to purchase it, this is what you're experiencing. And I've got, I don't know, 13,000 people that follow my page community, and there was 1 like on it. So I felt myself in my head getting deflated by that. I'm like, oh, people didn't see it. Maybe I should take it down. This is stupid. And then I realized I was like, 100 people saw it out of the 13,000. So, like, I probably also don't have to worry about it, because, like, nobody else knew that post. 12,900 people didn't know that post even existed at the end of the day. Before I ask some questions here in the comments, let's quickly talk about the conversion rate for a multi-page pre-sale site, because I know people were super interested in that. I don't know if you remember the data, and when I went to go pull it up, the Google Analytics, like G4, what was it, GA4 or whatever it's called, the switchover.
Yeah, GA3 maybe to GA4. Yeah, so like they sunset the old version of analytics that we had installed on there.
So, like, everything is in different places. So I'm just going to talk about the original launch of it, like the first few years up until GA4. The percentage of traffic, I think we've had, it's closing in on like 90,000 views of the article since the dawn of time, over 40,000 people. So people are coming back and, like, restarting it, reading it again. Of that, we've had 50% of people drop off immediately. Like, they won't even click to page 2. They're like, they don't even make it through the end of page 1. And then after that, it's about 20% of people drop off. So we're keeping attention of 80% of people to the next page, to the next page, to the next page, which essentially works out by page 6 to about, I think it was like 5 to 7% of people when we originally ran the numbers on that Google spreadsheet back in the day, that made it to giving us the email address. So really, out of 100 people that start, you're getting like 5 to 7 to even just like give you their email address. And over the years, the conversion rate of those leads who have requested an invite, cold traffic, it's down closer to like 3%. Warm traffic is up closer to like 10% and over. So that is what the results of this article looks like. There was other things that you and I had intended to do over the years. Like, remember, we were thinking, hey, what if we included pop-ups when they were going to abandon the page? What if we tried to, like, get their email address then and then continue the story via email, right? To capture more of those people. But really, we just never got around to it. Do you remember that project?
Yeah, vaguely. And I think if I were redoing this today, what we would probably do is because 50% of people are dropping off on the front page or the first page, probably just put an exit pop-up on that page. Facebook and every advertising platform hates those, by the way.
Yeah.
And the other thing to be aware of is a lot of people think like exit intent is not possible on mobile, but let me show you something real quick.
Ooh.
This is really simple. Exit intent is possible on mobile. Let me pull up a page that's.
Isn't it if you like scroll, like if it scrolls up or something, that's when it can fire?
Yep. So people are just, viewing a regular page. This is just CNN.com. So when someone goes to exit this page and they want to go to a different page, that's how you have to get the nav bar or the navigation bar pulled up on your phone. I don't know what I'm doing here. Clearly, I'm not clicking that. So as soon as they scroll the opposite direction.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Like to actually click somewhere else, you have to go backwards. So you trigger it on the backwards going.
Yeah, exactly. Going. So yeah, we would, someone's scrolling down the page like normal, and then they go to scroll up. That's when you trigger it. And that's not 100% of use cases, but 100% of use cases for, exit intent on desktop aren't people trying to leave the website either. It's just the majority of people. Yeah. And that's just whenever someone navigates up into the navigation bar away from the page.
Yeah. There's a question, the question, how do we track how many pages people click through? It's literally just like Google Analytics, like looking at each page, looking at the URL, and then manually doing the math. At one point, I think Mike set up the goals in Google Analytics, but we did end up splitting page 1 and page 2. That was another one of the iterations that we did just to make page 1 shorter. And when we did that, I think it messed up the goals. So me personally, I just look at Google Analytics, look at the like slug of any URL and just manually do the math in a Google spreadsheet. Shay asked a question prior to this. The tech behind the multi-page pre-sale site, was it a custom build or is it a website template / theme? Because she really likes the look and feel of this site and the experience reading through the article itself. With like, I was big on make sure there's tons of white space, like give the eye, especially on desktop, give the eye as much white space as possible so that it's an easy read. So was this custom build theme? What does that look like?
Yeah, so this is a WordPress theme called Salient that we built this off of. It's all pretty customized, but even to this day, whenever I'm building WordPress websites, I build everything in Salient. Cool. It's just a really flexible theme. It's really clean. And unfortunately, I have to go call my CEO really quick. So I don't know if we can put this on hold for a couple minutes.
You know what? You do that and I'll dive into the ad stuff. And so if you come back cool, feel free to leave it and then I'll just like look for you on the Zoom here. Yeah. Boom. Okay. So then we will head over to Patricia asked, is there a certain ad strategy that we used with this multi-page pre-sale site? And essentially the answer is I use the concepts of the strategy system. And the strategy system is essentially 3 phases of advertising. It is our connection where we are engaging with an audience. I like to do a lot of that organically on my page. If you guys are part of the page community, which I know a lot of you are, like that is an example of content that we could then amplify with ads that we would use like a page post engagement type of objective or a video views objective. The reason that we use these like connect things is to build up our warm custom audiences. Because in most cases, the people who know, like, and trust us, the people that are in our warm custom audiences, which are like those who engage with us on Facebook or Instagram, they like things, they double tap it, they swipe a carousel, they click the read more button, they leave a comment, they share it, they send it, they save it with Instagram. All of those things are trackable by Facebook. And then we can put ads in front of the people that do that. So that's phase 1, connect. The second one is commit. And commit is just essentially a fancy way to say lead generation ads, ads that are sending traffic to the page that are most likely going to make it through all 6 of the pages to convert, right? Like for this one, the call to action was request an invite. So I did a mix of cold traffic and warm traffic to the page one. And as we just talked about those conversion numbers, right? Like 50% of that that traffic just bounced on page one. They didn't make it through. And then the next page, 80% of that traffic kept going until it was like whittled down. It's essentially this, if this is a funnel, that's the worst way to, there we go. We like turn its funnel on its side. I don't know which way Zoom is, forward or backward. So hopefully that looks like it makes sense. We're like going the right way as people make it through there. And so that was the commit phase, right? Like the lead generation side of it. But then I take and sprinkle little elements of the connect phase, like the nurture, the engagement. So anyone who's clicking over to that page, they then get retargeted with a few different things. So it's like, if you hit page one, but didn't make it to page two, I had an ad that would say, like, oh, hey, I stopped by, but you didn't continue reading. Like, click here to continue the saga. And so originally we had ads at each of the pages where it dropped off. I found that unless you're sending a large amount of traffic a lot of time, like consistently is what I'm trying to say, it didn't make sense necessarily to have all of those page drop-offs just because not enough people were seeing them on any given day. And then the second phase, which is all about commit, the lead generation side, anyone who hit any of the 6 pages of the Bro Marketing article, I would then retarget them with a request an invite. So that is called the recovery ad, right? If they didn't make it all the way through and request an invite from that initial click, we would have a recovery ad show up in their feed that would ask them to request an invite to the program in a different way. So that was the general ad strategy. Then the third phase that is taught in the strategy system is the close phase, which is just sales retargeting. And sales retargeting from as many angles as possible. Instead of essentially banking all of your effort on one single ad creative, which then you need to like split test 52 gajillion thousand times, the essence of the strategy system is you have more ads, you have micro touch points at a much less ad budget, right? Like a lot of the times I'm running $1 a day ads to some of these ads. So I could have 10 different sales retargeting ads going for an entire month. That's $30 a pop. So I've spent $300 in the month on sales retargeting ads. And that could essentially double my sales conversion rate when running those. So that's a high level overview of what the ad side of the equation looked like. And now, as we wait to see if Mike's going to join us back, I'm going to answer some of the questions that we have in our chat. So, Mariana, I'm going to wait for Mike to ask that separate URL question. I personally just use my main website, like my main business URL, the adstrategist.com directs right to page 1 of this article. That works for me because I didn't have a lot of other content on my site beforehand, and I only have one pre-sale site. If there was more and I had different entry points, maybe that wouldn't make sense to have it be the homepage. But for me, that's what worked then. My opinion is keeping it on your original site, even if it's just like a different slug, is going to help with the SEO side of the equation. But again, I default all of the like SEO questions to Mike still to this day. I'm like messaging him on Messenger, Mike, do you know about this? Should I do that? So he is the person that I would go to for that. So we're going to ask him about the choosing a WordPress theme. We got Aisha's question about how do we track it and need more stats here. So out of how many people who land on the page with the invite opt-in, how many opt-ins, and how many who opt in arrive at the sales page end up buying? Okay, so how many people who land on the page, with the invite opt-in, how many opt-in? Is that what you're saying? So of the people that land on page 6, how many of those then click the invite button? I actually don't know that stat off the top of my head. I do know that the second page, let me pull that up real quick. The request an invite, that retargeting page, requestaninvite.com. Let me share my screen. Here it is. Here's that cool like background Mike was talking about, that video background. I'm about to come on stage. Woo! This page converts at 50%. So when we, like, this is the one that the retargeting ad, the recovery ad, it's called, we'll send them to this page. And if they get here, 50% of people actually click this button to request an invite. So I do know those stats off the top of my head. Let me just double check. Mike said he's almost done. And then how many who opt in and arrive at the sales page end up buying? Again, I don't know if I even track that number. And the reason I haven't tracked that number specifically, like in my brain, especially from an ads perspective, I always want to understand what the earnings per lead is, right? Like how much revenue do we make divided by how many leads did it take to generate that revenue? That equation gives us our earnings per lead. And when I know what our earnings per lead is, which over the years, because strategy's been different price points, it was $2,000 to start, then it went to $12.97, then it went up to $24.97. There was a $38.97 option, and now it's the most streamlined, like most elegant and efficient version it's ever been, and it's $8.97. So it's the best price it's also ever been. So with that being said, the earnings per lead for the program that it sells at the end of this has been anywhere between $100 usually to $165 per lead. And if I know it's $100 to $165 per lead, it's come down since we lowered the price, which makes sense, right? Because you're making less revenue per purchase. That tells me then how much I can spend to acquire a lead profitably. And that takes into account like how much I'm also spending in the connect phase, how much I'm also spending in the close phase, how much I'm spending total, right? All of the phases to get one new lead at the end of the day. So that's what I measured because that sales page is out there in the world in different ways. Like I link to that sales page in different places. So hopefully that clears it all up. Let me know if there's any additional questions for that. And then now that we've got Mike back, let's ask him some more of the
So sorry about that, by the way.
Don't be sorry. You're literally running $1.8 million worth of ad spend a month. If you got to go, where we understand that you got to go, right?
Yep.
So good. Okay. So Mariana asked, is it better to get a separate URL and build a standalone website? Or would it be better to use my business's main URL and eliminate the header footer on those specific pages? Do you have a preference for that?
That's a great question. Typically, I like to, just for it's easier in most cases. Typically, I like to set it up on its own domain. That's not the end of the world. The one really important thing though, especially when it comes to like measuring conversions down the road, is the whole funnel needs to be on one top level domain. So one of the ones that we run for Pampa is pampaworkshop.com. And we have checkout.pampaworkshop.com, watch.pampaworkshop.com. That's all really important that they stay on the same domain, because then everything can be tracked by the Facebook pixel.
Okay.
Whereas if you're sending people to, theadstrategist.com and then, teach me how to run Facebook ads.com, after that for the checkout page, those conversions aren't going to track. So, typically my preference for people that are just getting started is just building in ClickFunnels. I love ClickFunnels 1.0 because it's easy in this regard. So buy a domain through Namecheap, move it to Cloudflare in terms of DNS hosting, hook it up with ClickFunnels, and you're ready to roll. The whole process takes 10 minutes.
Perfect. So make it easier first, and then as you find it's working, as you're testing other things, like then it might make sense to migrating it over to different domains.
Yep.
Love. Okay. So then we had, shoot, there was one more. Mariana. Oh, any guidance on what to look for in choosing a WordPress theme for MPPSs?
Yeah, you know what? It all comes down to basically how flexible the WordPress theme is and how little you're going to have to customize it. You know, I know for a lot of people when they're building in WordPress, they like Elementor and stuff like that. That's fine.
Well,
you know, but it's just personal preference.
Okay. Awesome. And then we have one more question. Anyone else before we lose the opportunity to chat with Mike? Drop your questions in the chat there as I get one more question from Yaz. That is, where did it just go? This one's actually a me question. So what's the ascension model behind the first sale, if anything? I laugh because it does not exist. This is, this is a case of the cobbler's shoes for Amanda Bond, where she is running traffic for so many other people's businesses that I really just never created an ascension path for my own. But as Mike knows, I have very strong opinions about value ladders in general, and especially people who are like one-person businesses or like people working with contractors. My opinion is people diversify too soon, and then they don't, like, the thing that they sell isn't amazing. The way that they sell it isn't amazing. The conversions aren't there. The customer success isn't there. And it just ends up being a cluster. And so in my business, I have the digital program itself, and then I have other things that I do in the business, but they're kind of unrelated. So there is no ascension model. You have strategy, and then if you don't buy strategy, I mean, we have a sphere of influence that we can talk about, but that's basically it. I just have the one thing. Mike, any comments on like ascension models? Because I know that you work with people with much more like robust product suites.
Yeah, if you're not at $1 million a month already, don't worry about it.
Love.
It's, I think a lot of people do so many different things out of sequence because there's so many different shiny objects. There's so many different things that seem sexy that it's like, oh, I want to go try this. But the reality is, you do, or organic social media helps you to identify market message match. Once you've identified that, then you're good to create an offer and kind of package your offer in a specific way so you can start making money. And you start making money from organic, pivot to paid advertising, because now you have an idea of what the message is that the market wants to hear, and ideally a vehicle to help convert those people. And your deliverables can be, I don't want to say this in the wrong way, but the truth is your deliverables can be shit at this stage, and all of your focus can go into marketing. And then the next step in the sequence is actually go build a good fucking product. At that point, you have the marketing figured out. And so many people skip over this and are just like, scale, 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 scale. And what happens there is your brand goes to shit and you cannot recover from that.
Yeah.
It is impossible to recover from that.
Yeah.
So identify the market message match, figure out how to make money, build the product in that sequence, then worry about ascension ladders and stuff like that down the road.
Yeah, that's exactly the model that we took, because with this bro marketing article, it essentially, like, there was the organic side, the messaging match, this article hit on the touch point. We started to filter a lot of people into the program. And then I spent time refining it, because mine was just like originally iPhone talking head videos that were not scripted. I had no plan for it. And now it's strategy 5.0. So I've redone the program entirely 5 times over. And
That's
now,
incredible.
now it's like everything's teleprompted. So the whole script, like, it's a exact flow that I'm taking people through, because I saw people asking the same questions over and over. And so now in module 1, I know that there's only 3 questions that people even ask. And the videos now answer those questions because I've been running it for so long in all of these methods and models. So internally, that's where I turn to. So in the ascension, I guess I could just like go to the next thing. Now that both of those things are the way that they need to be.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think for so many people, that's also leads to that like kind of existential crisis of, do I even enjoy doing this? Most people get into some sort of high ticket business and they realize, I don't like doing this.
Totally.
And there's no law that says you have to have a high ticket business. There's no law that says you have to have an online course business. There's e-com, there's affiliate marketing. There's a ton of different ways to make money on the internet. So
many.
Figure out the one that suits your goals.
I love it. Mike, have you ever worked with healthcare providers or sensitive industries where you're blocked from sending data from your pixel or creating custom audiences? And in those cases, if you have you seen viability in paid display or social?
There's creative ways around that. You just have to know other people. So
got it.
Those laws don't apply to me.
Good.
Or those rules
don't say that.
Those rules, not laws.
Don't say that live on my live stream here.
Right.
That's a private message conversation for you guys later.
Just kidding.
Yeah. Scratch that. Okay. Amazing. Well, Mike, I know that your time is so valuable, and I thank you so much for coming over. Just when you start riffing on things, I get so excited. I just wish you had a podcast so that I could consume all of this brilliance, right? I just want to hear you say all the marketing things all of the time.
We're gonna have the Heiser podcast at some point.
Can we do that? That'd be so good.
We'd have fun with it for sure.
We would have so much fun with it. Hands up in the chat if you guys want to hear that podcast. We would love to hear the support that we have for it already. If you have to go, Mike, I'm going to say goodbye, and then I will just remind people what the rest of our week looks like once you're gone. So thank you again for your time, your expertise, your wisdom. Thank you for saying yes to me and working on this project.
Always love working together.
Like taking a risk on me all those years ago. It honestly just touches my heart. I appreciate the heck out of you.
And same to you. I know you know this, and it's probably none of your audience's businesses, but when we worked together, I was so burnt out. Like I needed that bro marketing article because it's all the Lambos and the douchebags and the mansions and all that other crap that's out there on the internet, and I hate it for the most part. And I needed it so bad, and you brought me back to life in this space. So thank you so much, Bon.
Oh my God. I love and appreciate you so much. Thank you, Mike.
Same,
we will chat soon.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, friends, that about wraps up today's session. If you are joining us, our last live stream is happening on Monday. Oh my gosh, my Monday calendar is so packed. We are off to Vegas tomorrow. And so Monday I'll be live streaming from Vegas, and we are doing that at 2 p.m. Eastern, which equates to 11 p.m. Pacific. I have a special guest joining us. I know I've been teasing who that special guest is this whole time. Many of you have thrown your hands in the ring and said, oh, I know who it is. And I have the official announcement coming out in email soon. It will be the lovely Sean Twinge, and he is just going to come and drop his marketing expertise and brilliance. And in that email, I'll detail essentially how I stumbled across his work. And in full disclosure, I was like, who is this guy? Who is this guy that's not Andre coming into our world? And I was very hard to win over, but it was the moment that I joined their other program, The Art of Email. And one of the elements to the live version of The Art of Email was the fact that they did live calls every once in a while. And for 3 hours, sometimes they would go and they would answer marketing questions. And just the way that Sean's brain worked really made me a convert. Is that how you say it? Really made me respect and admire the perspective. And basically, I just say, I love Sean's brain. I'm so obsessed with Sean's brain and his way of thinking. So we're going to kick it off at 2 p.m. on Monday. Bring any remaining questions that you guys have about Sphere of Influence. If you've already decided that writing a multi-page pre-sale site is the right next thing for you, then you should have an email in your inbox. There's also, did I pin this? Let me pin it quickly to the top of it. That should show up at the top now. I just pinned a comment. If you've already decided that that is the right next step for your business, go ahead, click there. And join Sphere of Influence today. The doors are open to the program until Monday night at 11:59 p.m. Eastern. Patricia, Sean Twinge, SHAWN. There we go. I think, is that Shay? I can't see the icon there. So we had somebody answer right after at Kingdom Over Everything. What was I saying? So we have until Monday night. I have literally begged these men to allow us into sphere of influence because of how it has impacted my life. And hopefully you've seen all of that this week as we've detailed it together. So any questions about the program, if you're considering joining, hit me up over on Facebook. You know that I am always in my DMs and available to help you answer if this is the right next step for your business. If you've wanted to get inside of it for some time now, let me just say, do it. I'm going to be perfectly honest, do it, because I don't know when it's going to be available again. It's not an evergreen. Sean is closing the doors on Monday at 11:59. I'm going to try to convince them to keep letting me bring this message to a larger audience, but it's taken me a year and a half to get them to this point. So don't miss out if you're meant to be inside. Join us Tuesday. My DMs are always open. Thank you everyone for your time and attention. I love sharing the behind the scenes of all this and the impact that it's made on me and my business. And I hope that if you've decided it's the right thing for you and your business, it has the exact same outcome. So I love and appreciate you all. Until Monday, friends.